Cheating is often imagined as a sudden storm, a cataclysmic moment that strikes without warning, but in reality, it's far more insidious. Like smoke seeping through a cracked window, betrayal creeps in quietly, gradually suffocating the intimacy in a relationship before you ever fully recognize the damage. This isn't about paranoia, it's about patterns, about the subtle shifts that point to something deeper, something broken beneath the surface. If you've ever sensed that hollow ache in your chest whispering that she's drifting away, this message is for you. 1. The smile that doesn't reach her eyes. One of the first red flags is disconnection masked by routine. She hasn't left, but she lingers like a ghost. The physical presence is there, yet the emotional presence is absent. Conversations become mechanical, smiles appear out of obligation rather than joy. The laughter you once shared now sounds rehearsed, and her responses feel more like reflexes than genuine emotion. You ask how she is, and she says fine with a hollowness that betrays the truth. Her spirit is somewhere else. A stoic man sees these patterns not through insecurity but through awareness. He listens to what isn't said. When love turns into performance, when connection becomes rationed, it's a sign that her emotional currency is being spent elsewhere. She's not trying to build with you anymore, she's just buying time. 2. The disappearing details. A woman who's emotionally disengaging doesn't slam doors or scream, she simply becomes selective. Where once she was an open book, now there are chapters you're not allowed to read. The day-to-day stories, the ones that used to be meaningless but comforting, start to disappear. Her phone, once casually left around, is now clutched like a shield. Notifications are silenced. It faces down, she angles it away. She's on the defensive before you've even asked a question. Privacy becomes the cloak for concealment, not growth. The difference is in the contrast between who she was and who she's becoming. Open versus guarded, expressive versus evasive. Cheating doesn't start with physical acts, it starts with erasing access, removing you from the space you once freely inhabited. 3. The vanishing intimacy. Though you still share a bed, it no longer feels like home. There's a barrier, invisible but suffocating. Sometimes she turns away in silence. Other times she initiates with an intensity that feels artificial. Either way, something is wrong. The passion is either absent or unrecognizable. Sex, when it's real, is a language, a shared expression of trust, safety, and love. But now, that language is broken. It's no longer fluent, it's performative. Because a woman cannot truly share her body while her soul belongs elsewhere. The stoic man knows this. He doesn't pretend, he observes, he respects the signs even when they hurt. 4. The manufactured conflicts. Suddenly, small missteps become major issues. You forget to text back and she says you don't care. You leave a dish in the sink and she questions your entire character. These aren't fights rooted in real grievances, they're projections, displacement. She's not angry with you, she's at war with her own guilt. In her mind, conflict creates justification. If she can make you the problem, then her betrayal becomes self-care instead of treachery. She convinces herself first, then tries to convince you. And if you don't see through it, you'll start apologizing for things that were never wrong. You'll bend to fit the version of yourself she's fabricated to rationalize her escape. A stoic man doesn't engage in battles designed to obscure the truth. He recognizes conflict as camouflage, and steps out of the frame rather than performing in her narrative. 5. The future without you. This is perhaps the quietest betrayal of all, not because she yells or demands distance, but because she begins editing you out of the future. Her language shifts. What was once we becomes I. Plans become vague. Dreams once shared are now pursued solo. She isn't asking you to leave, she's just making sure you no longer feel at home. And you know, when you question it, you're labeled dramatic, insecure, or sensitive. But this is how emotional departure looks. It starts in her mind and ends in her absence. She's rehearsing the goodbye long before she says the words aloud. A grounded man doesn't beg or chase, he doesn't plead for scraps of affection or sit in a room where he's no longer welcomed. Dignity for the stoic is quiet. It doesn't scream or demand, it walks away. Cheating doesn't begin in the bedroom, it begins in the erosion of presence, in the silence, in the moments when affection becomes rationed, and you convince yourself it's still enough. The stoic man doesn't cling to illusions, he doesn't argue with disappearing energy or beg for love that has already left. Because when a woman has to betray you to find herself, she was never truly with you to begin with. And the greatest act of strength is not staying in a place where you're being slowly erased, it's walking away before you lose yourself completely.